As far as severe weather goes, we're going to be on the borderline, and one of the main things we're watching is for just how much moisture can return from the Gulf. It's a pretty short amount of time we have to get that moisture up here. We are looking at some storms with a likelihood for producing damaging hail, and then as you go farther south, there's maybe a little bit higher threat for some localized damaging winds along with that hail. And we'll be watching the tornado threat as we always do this time of year, but definitely something to have your safety plan in place, as always, from April through the rest of the entire year. Yeah, it does look like supercells would be likely. Some of those may be what we call elevated storms, where they're then more likely to produce hail. A lot of that will depend on where the front sets up. But as of now, at least for a good chunk of eastern Nebraska, it does appear that hail would be the primary hazard. I think we could have some isolated areas of strong damaging wind gusts. It's a very strong storm system, so even without thunderstorms, we're looking at strong winds. And then where these thunderstorms do develop, they could have some locally stronger wind gusts even than just the windy conditions that'll be ongoing. Yeah, quite a bit of heavy rain potential with this storm system. Even areas that don't get the significant thunderstorms are still looking at maybe 1 to 3 inches. Could have some pockets of even higher amounts than that. Well, you know, our river levels, even where they've gone down, they're still running a little bit higher than normal. So this is something where, you know, it'll take a little less rainfall than it normally would this time of year in order to reach flood stage again. It's something where, again, just having the plan ready in case you need to take action and move to higher ground is always a good idea, especially with 1 to 3 inches of rain in the forecast. You know, Kansas and Nebraska, again, they've got that potential for severe thunderstorms. You know, there are some questions, again, about the Gulf moisture, just how well that will be able to return all the way from the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, again, I think we're looking at hail being the primary hazard with some of these severe thunderstorms, but it's a pretty good setup for some areas of large hail. But yeah, we're looking at Wednesday afternoon and evening for the thunderstorm potential, and then turning over to snow as the storm system progresses gradually to the east. You know, it looks like it's going to be a very heavy, very wet, wind-driven snow up there. Main questions in that area being exactly where that line is between rain and snow. Where it does turn over to snow, it's going to be very heavy. It's going to accumulate pretty quick. Good news is the ground is warmed up a little bit, so at least we'll melt a little bit, but it's going to come hard enough that it'll stick. The potential is there, and you know, we could have a situation, at least in some areas of northeast Nebraska, maybe even in north central Nebraska, where we get a good dose of rain, again 1 to 3 inches of rain, followed by several inches of snow in those areas. You know, our history goes back, and it tells us that these big storm systems, especially this time of year, they'll bring that warm air north ahead of the storm, and then just as quickly bring the cold air back south from Canada as it passes. So yeah, we can have some pretty significant swings.